Hey everybody! That was an aggressive one tonight,
right.
but that's okay. Here
Welcome
we go.
to an all-new Trenny and C. He is Trenny, I am C, and we do whiskey reviews, and tonight we have a fun one. We have, it's actually really hard for us to get Indian blends here locally, so we managed to stumble upon a couple of them, and one of them is one of these best-selling Indian blends. We have a Royal Stag tonight.
Why don't you show the camera, the people,
There we go. Here's
what we have. So this is, like you said, one of the best-selling Canadian whiskeys, Indian-style whiskeys out there. Royal Stag. We are excited to taste this because we've never even seen this around our area.
This is the first time we've ever seen it around. There's that proud stag, and it's so here's something that's interesting. Like, this is a debate that always comes into play. Is it shows as 42.8 VV or 75 proof, but apparently this is the
75 degrees proof.
75 degrees proof, but that is the old British proof system. So if you do the math on it, if you multiply the 42.8 by 1.75, that gives you the proof.
Okay.
Don't try and do it in your head.
My head can't do that.
It's 75. Right now. Okay. Whereas in, say, the States or North America, proof is basically just double the alcohol.
Yeah, so 80 proof is 40% alcohol.
Yeah, so if you're trying to figure it out here in North America, that 42.8 is the alcohol percentage. It's the ABV, which would be like 85.5 proof or something.
Right.
Whereas,
which we don't use.
Whereas it's 75 in the British proof system. So anyway, that's a bit of nerdular information about proof, but
as they call it, nerdular.
It's quite nerdular.
So anyways, we're excited to have this bottle here tonight because, like we said, we search the whiskey shelves pretty regularly. And you rarely find Indian whiskeys out there.
Yeah,
blends.
But we have had After Dark. We've had Royal Challenge. We've had Signature. We've had Blue. What's that blue one that looks like a penis?
I keep thinking Blue Steel, which is Zoolander, but
so we've had a few Indian blends and Black Dog as well.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Led Zeppelin, of course.
Yeah, I mean.
So we've got Royal Stag tonight, and we're excited to try it. So let's get it cracked open. And this says here that it's a blend of imported Scotch malts and select Indian grain spirits, which we've. I did. I've done.
So it's not a.
It's a twist top.
It's a twist top.
Most likely a speed pour. We've got the speed pour.
Got the speed / slow pour.
The fire, the fire retardant pouring system.
Just so it doesn't you can't.
Nothing will light on fire here.
No.
Okay, let me pour it up.
Let's try this out because we have, we've done a couple of whiskey fests and things like that where we meet some of the ambassadors for the products that are coming out of India right now, and it's very cool that it's actually in Canada.
It is. It's fun.
These are relatively inexpensive products here, and I guess we're gonna find out how worth it really is. But one thing that is interesting that happens in India a lot is the connectedness with the Scotch world and taking those Scotch grain malts or grain whiskeys and mingling them with some of these Indian style blends. So it's this. They try to do the best of both worlds,
a hybrid,
I think, which is kind of cool.
So in this case, it says it's a blend of the best Scotch malts from the Highlands.
Okay. So really, you would think Highland malt whiskey from Scotland, a little bit herbal.
Let's give it a nose.
Let's get into it. And we have found actually with After Dark, especially sometimes they're very new make
So this one here, I'm gonna get right after it.
Yeah.
One of the things about Indian grains and Indian grain spirits is that they can come across a bit rummy. And this one definitely has a little bit of that rummy presence on the nose. I'll say that right
Yeah,
away.
it's kind of like a molasses style barrel aged molasses kind of rum style for sure.
Yeah, it's got a sweetness to it
with
sure.
a little bit of that. We've said this before, but it's imitating a whiskey.
So some of them
you might not immediately smell this to the a blind kind of a situation and go, oh, this is.
But you know it when you know it.
Yeah.
And one thing is that there is something antiseptic about it a little bit, like not to the level of something like After Dark, but it certainly has some kind of I guess you would say interesting type qualities. Like,
well, you know what? There are some interesting enough. There's some brown sugars. There's some molasses. There's some kind of woody sugariness to it. But
do you get anything Scotchy about it?
But that's really true. Like there's nothing very
Not on
Scotchy
the nose
about
yet. There's nothing really Scotchy on the nose yet. Maybe a bit herbal.
And they do say on the bottle that it's like a Highland style.
Yeah.
So
maybe
is that okay. Highland India or or Highland Scotland?
I think they mean Scotland.
Okay, because I can't.
I think that's our intention.
Cannot really speak to Highland India.
I
don't know enough Highland Indian whiskeys.
No. I think we better taste it.
Okay, let's try this.
Here we go.
Okay, so instantly, it's got that kind of, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but like a decent quality vodka that it's not just the neutral part of the vodka. There's actually like a sweetness and a little bit more going on. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
But the fact that you're comparing it to vodka right now leaves it in a category where I was going to say there's a blandness to it.
I mean, there is wood and there is a whiskey element to it, and this is what I'm finding with a lot of Indian whiskey. That it's not necessarily bad. Like this is highly drinkable.
Indian blends. This is not like a single malt from India.
Well, I didn't say that. It's a whiskey, though.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between...
In fact, it's a deluxe whiskey.
But what I'm saying is there's a big difference between Indian single malts like Amrut and Rampur and Paul John versus Indian blends.
Yeah,
These are different categories.
For sure. This is considered an Indian whiskey, though, however.
Sure.
So what I, as a consumer here in North America, it's a bit different. It has that underlying grain, sweetness that is just there from the grains.
Yeah,
it doesn't taste aged specifically or anything like that.
To me, there's nothing wrong with it.
Totally,
but there's nothing really great about it. Like. My impression is like it would be like a kind of a boring blended Scotch or like an entry level anything. Like bottom shelf Canadian whiskey is not great. Bottom shelf bourbon is really bad. Bottom shelf Scotch is not great. So this is one of those things where this is the bottom shelf of Indian whiskey. This does not represent what Indian whiskey can do.
True.
The Amruts, Paul Johns, and Rampurs represent what Indian whiskey can do. And to me, this shows what it is. You get what you pay for. This is bottom shelf.
This is relatively inexpensive, right?
Yeah, it's bottom shelf Indian whiskey, and it's presenting itself as that. Which is, there's a market for that. There's a huge market for that.
If I'm like just tasting it on its own merit, without trying to think of it as being it says Scotch blend, whiskey, deluxe whiskey, it says. But if you just take it for what it is and not pay attention to the bottle, like there is a nice sweetness to it. It is very easily drinkable.
It's a drinkable spirit.
It's very, like, even as just a sipper, it's not something you're gonna like, show your friends necessarily, but you can sip it and go, okay, there's a sweetness to it. There's a little bit of wood sugar. There's a little bit of brown sugar. Sure. A little bit of molasses. But it is highly mixable.
Exactly. So I think that's where your realm is here. If you're cocktailing and you're looking for something to mix with a cocktail that's not going to ruin your cocktail, you're going to get 42% alcohol. Nice little titch up from 40.
Yeah, you get a buzz.
You're going to get a buzz. It's going to non-offensively mix with whatever soda, fruit juice, whatever you want to mix it with. So, like, it can get the job done in a cocktailing atmosphere, but from a whiskey enthusiast, you're not going to get anything that you're interested in.
So one thing I am going to mention that is kind of interesting is that it right on the label and on the top it says Seagrams, and right up here it says Seagrams, and that is kind of widely known to be a Canadian thing, you know?
I think originally.
Anyway,
yeah.
So like,
but you don't see the Seagrams brand around anymore.
You don't. So we're not going to go into detail of that, but that's just something to kind of point out.
It's an interesting factoid.
Yeah. What does it say? I really
read the last sentence of that.
Yeah, I really can't. It's too small writing.
That's the part where it talks about it being Highland blended Scotch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. So it's definitely a grain style whiskey.
So to summarize,
not terrible by any means.
To summarize, yeah, it gets the job done. It's got drinkability. But for a whiskey enthusiast, it's not going to provide you with anything exceptional or really interesting in any kind of way.
It's not going to shock the palate, you know. No. But, I just drank this whole glass, and I could easily have another because it's easily drinkable. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, we're trying to see. Hopefully you got a little something on this review.
At least you know whether or not to buy Royal Stag based on whether you're cocktailing or actually looking to drink whiskey neat.
And really, what's this, like $25 or something?
Yeah, I think in the end it's $30.
Yeah, like in Canada, that's actually
it's
pretty
on
cheap.
par with any blended Scotch, really.
And in fact, compared to some other Indian whiskeys, let's say After Dark,
it's better.
I would say it's better.
It's definitely better.
So
or it's at least like middle of the range there. I think we like that signature.
Yeah.
I think it was called. But anyway, click like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we will see you for another Indian whiskey review at a later date. Cheersies.
Cheers.
Tranny and C.